Eddie. Welcome to Common Mansplaining, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Welcome back, Christian and Eddie. How you doing, Christian?
Greetings to average guys here today to break down a very unaverage week in politics.
Yeah, that's it. This is it. Just the average dudes hanging out, and and of course, once again, we are here with a heavy heart, as once again we have to deal with another insane tragedy. And I got to say, I mean, I am just so frustrated that these incidents keep occurring. I'm so frustrated in this specific incident for a variety of reasons. I did a video on it yesterday. I want to just very briefly offer a slight retraction of sorts, as the video I did yesterday, some new information came to light today. As you know, some of the officers' testimony has started to roll in, and basically, and some better videos and audio is available. And basically, one of the things that I didn't have available to me was that the guy, we'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but the guy that removes Preddy's firearm, he doesn't shout like, "Hey, I've disarmed him," or "Hey, I have his gun." He just shouts, "Gun, gun."
Is
Right?
he the one?
He,
What I had seen is we still don't know who shouted gun, but he was
yeah,
the one who
right. So,
shouted gun.
right. I just heard that somebody
Somebody
shouted
else
gun.
gun.
Right.
Yeah,
Somebody
he was
yells gun,
the
gun.
one.
And I
Yeah,
assumed it was him because he's the one that sees it and he's the one that grabs it. But then, of
no,
course,
he pulls it out and makes it visible. Somebody sees him brandishing that gun and starts yelling gun. We
yeah.
don't know who that
And then, of
person
course,
is.
immediately after that,
Yeah,
the guy,
that
like,
person
they
was
look at his
also,
hand. He's
yeah,
got a black metallic thing in it, which is his phone, of course. But,
yeah.
so it's looking actually more like this is kind of an accidental in the moment.
Well,
Just
yeah,
so I'm clear, right? Because I think
that
there's
guy
a
who
million
removed the
things.
firearm and showed it that you can see on the video was also not marked in ICE or police, did not have ICE or police markings on him like everybody else.
Yeah, the gray shirt dude. Yeah, that was kind of all right. But before we get started, please like, share, and
Yeah,
subscribe. And
please.
and guys, just a quick FYI for those of you who are loyal fans of the channel, thank you so much. We finally have a Patreon. All right, so there's another way that you can support the channel if you want to go check out our Patreon. I put the link in there, and I'll also post the link in the permanent comments. And I think membership is extremely cheap. I set it for the cheapest one it would let me set it for. But yeah, you can get to hang out with us. We'll do some special events, like hang out and chat with us. We might, watch us play Magic or something like that. We'll just, chit chat, talk politics or whatever. But anyway, there'll be more to follow and some extra exclusive content. But I
We
want to
did
talk
have a
about
common mansplaining OnlyFans, but nobody was joining that. So we've switched to Patreon.
reason.
Nobody wanted a spicy content for some
I was
reason.
sharing like my cleavage and everything. It's 36 C's right here, baby. No, so anyway, so I want to talk about we're going to talk about the shooting itself, but I want to talk about the overall scope of why this keeps happening and why this is such a consistent problem, especially in specifically Minnesota. And I also want to discuss, some of the organization that's been going on, the resistance groups that are showing up, because this is, I hate to say it, I didn't want this to become any kind of civil war, but it keeps on escalating and escalating and escalating. And each step is a step towards more factionization, more organized government versus government action, which is driving me nuts. And that needs to get stopped immediately. So, first, let's talk about the event itself. Unfortunately, because we can't do this on StreamYard, I can't show you the videos. But guys, if you're out there and you haven't seen the videos for yourself, dear Lord, please look at the stuff for yourself. Now, preface that by saying these are disturbing images and prepare yourself for it in advance because it's violent, but do not take DHS's word for it. Don't take MSNBC's word for it. Because everybody's doing the exact same thing that they did with Renee Good. Everybody's just starting with their confirmation bias, either for or against Trump, for or against ICE, and they're running with it. And literally, it drives me nuts because both sides are wrong again.
Yeah.
Both GHS again is starting to paint this guy immediately as some kind of domestic terrorist. They're trying to act like, oh, what did Christine Ohm say? Oh, he had 2 magazines and a gun, and he was trying to inflict maximum damage. Bull crap. There is nothing in any of the circumstances, even up to and even afterwards, that could even remotely give you the glimmer that he was going to try to inflict maximum damage, right? And the converse is also false, right? MSNBC is acting like this was like a cold-blooded murder again, and that everything that happened was
some guy who just happened to be walking down the street,
yeah, some dude that just
caught in
is
the
a regular
crossfire.
dude, right? It's a perfectly normal, like nurse and blah 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 blah. Good hardworking citizen, pays all his taxes and all that, and that also is false, right? So we're going to talk about this, but I want to, briefly, just the events of the case are these, right? First of all, it's important to understand the stage. This was not like an ICE facility, right? Where everybody's just standing around and protesters can kind of just gather and hang out. This was a targeted ICE operation, which means anybody who's there literally had to follow these ICE officers on their active operation to find out where they're going and chase them, right? That's impeding justice. They're blowing whistles.
Obstruction, yeah.
They're blowing whistles, which, by the way, could alert a potential victim, criminal who they would be picking in, which that's impeding justice. Again, that's crime. They're standing in the middle of the street. That's a crime, right? So understand, before this even goes down, there are multiple crimes being committed. Now, again, there's an immense amounts of fault on both sides of this equation, right? I'm not trying to carry water for anybody, right? Don't look at me and act like I'm some kind of, I don't know, MAGA bootlicker, like they say. And don't look at me and act like I'm some kind of libtard. I am neither of those things. I am a slave to the truth. And nothing but the truth. So if you guys haven't seen the video, if you can't feel the frustration in my voice.
Well, I preface that right, there's multiple videos you have to watch. This is why I didn't want to respond to it right away. I wanted to see because there were several people out there videotaping, and I wanted to see it from multiple angles. And I feel like that helped me understand clearly some things that we'll get upon. So not only I know the BBC initially had a shot that was across the street that kind of showed him at the front. You can see his head, his hands that were empty on the ground when he was kneeling down. And then there's one that's from behind. That's very important, where you can see him being them finding the firearm in his back on his waistband and removing it, right, which you couldn't see from the other angle.
Let me just briefly address something that somebody said in chat, just so you guys are clear on this. You're welcome to look it up. Please fact check this, but you're 100% false when you say that ICE isn't allowed to enforce crimes that they witness. If you are impeding justice and you're disrupting an active investigation that they are in the process of. By the way, ICE is actually allowed to arrest for any exigent circumstances they witness. If they're just doing an operation, you just happen to be robbing the bank down the street, they can arrest you. If they see it happen, they can do it. Now, they can't aim to find a bank robber, right? They can't go looking for random bank robbers unless they happen to be illegal immigrants, right? But they if they see you punch a dude in the face 10 feet away for no reason that's completely unrelated, they absolutely can and will detain you and arrest you 100%. So don't just wipe that whole lie off the face of the earth. I've heard it so many times. It's driving me nuts. They're 100% allowed to do that. Stop it. All right. I'm sorry I'm so angry because these lies drive me crazy. All of these lies that you guys are hearing from media or your friends who are super liberal or whatever, kill that nonsense. Look it up for yourself.
Both the narratives, see the narratives that came out immediately after the shooting were very knee-jerk and very, very much defensive of their sides, because there were mistakes made on both sides, and it's a tragedy. We never want to have anybody lose their life. And the agent that killed this man will have blood on his hands his whole life. He's going to have to deal with that, and whether that will most likely impact his career. I don't believe, right, we can talk about this a little bit, that he will face criminal justice for it. And I think that will be frustrating for people whose only idea of justice or consequence will be if this shooter goes to jail. Because the Supreme Court has shown on these high tension situations, which were created not just by the ICE agents, by the people around it, they give law enforcement a lot of leeway in that.
Now,
I mean, obviously, he should be pulled off desk duty, potentially lose his job or things like that. But if you're expecting criminal convictions, I think that's going to be unsatisfying. Just to
and not
set
just
that
him.
expectation.
By the way, not just him, because honestly, it's funny because as tragic as this death is, as horrible as this death is, the situation in that actual moment about the death itself is actually probably not the biggest fault of the officers. The biggest fault of the officers is that they immediately started escalating this thing from the second it started. That was the biggest fault is that they were being thugs, that they were throwing their weight around, right? Like they gave an instruction to these people to get out of the street, a lawful order that again these people did not follow, which is yet another crime. Right. So like this is what the third or fourth crime that they've witnessed in this situation. But even though they gave these instructions, they've seen 3 or 4 crimes, their reaction is not at all appropriate. What they did was start throwing them out of the street.
Yeah,
and that's
that woman, start pushing that woman. Yeah. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's I mean, obviously they have the legal right to enforce their word, right? So if they order you to do X and you don't do it, they can in fact force you to do X. But that's not the way it's done. Like, I don't understand why they didn't just immediately stop and arrest her. The moment she didn't obey the lawful order, the moment she's in the street protesting illegally, I don't understand why they couldn't just turn around and say, all right, put your hands behind your back. I'm tossing you in the van. That's it. And they do it, smoothly, calmly, dispassionately, and this whole thing goes away. But instead, they had to be like, I'm the boss and you're threatening my authority. And so I'm going to push you and push you and push you until you get it. That is some childish, juvenile bullcrap. That's terrible. And
right.
that's what escalated this whole
and
thing.
then right. So he didn't like that. So he stood in between. He got between them and the woman they were pushing. And they said, well, that's obstruction of justice, you getting in the way. And then they overreacted to him. Now, it's also one thing that I think just mentally too. It's one thing for them to push a woman, but then when a male, a full-grown adult male gets in there, then now they feel like, well, they can kind of let loose. It's not just shoving now. Now
Right.
they can get down and they can start, being really physical.
So,
and I think they wanted to set an example for everybody else that they were going to beat this guy up and really make an example of him, which is not appropriate. But it was, you could see it was a huge escalation. Now these are fraught circumstances. This is why confronting law enforcement is always, especially when there's been physical confrontations and threats on their life.
Yeah.
That they're humans. They're going to make mistakes. You put them in a pressure cooker like this, people are going to make mistakes. We're not excusing his behavior.
Not
We're
at
not
all.
saying his behavior was appropriate or legal or justified, right? But we're saying that pressure is going to create people to make tragic mistakes.
Right. And by the way, if for those of you who aren't following this thing, this is where the focus of this thing is going to be tonight. The bigger picture is that's the whole point, right? The game is these paid protesters are paid not actually just to protest. What they're paid to do is to instigate and force these ICE officers to decision after decision after decision after decision after decision until they make a mistake. That's the game. Yeah. The game isn't like just stand there and act peaceful. The game is challenge them as many times as you can until they screw up, because then we can get it in the news and then we can use that propaganda against them. That's the whole game, right? Now, the next crime, right, the Christian mentioned, the next thing that happens is they're pushing these people off the street like they shouldn't be. And then this guy gets in the way. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. I don't care what's happening. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what circumstances led up to it. But do not interject yourself in an active police-citizen contact ever. Ever. Unless, like, the guy is literally, like, the police are, like, literally beating somebody to death. And it would have to be that. It would have to be, like, literally saving somebody's life. Other than that, stay the F out of it. It doesn't matter how bad you think they're behaving. It doesn't matter what that person did or didn't do. Stay out of it. In Matthew, they are police. They are actually trained longer than a normal police officer at a local PD. FLET is a longer program than BLET. They are absolutely duly sworn officers of the law. Stop that lie. 100% police. So do what they say, stay out of their business, and when they tell you to lay down, I don't care how much it bothers you or it injures your pride or something like that, lay the F down. Lay down. Put your hands behind your head, interlock your fingers, and be quiet. Follow every single order. Yes, they are, Matt. Look it up. It'll take you 5 seconds to punch that in Google. I guarantee you they're. I wish I could share screens. I would disprove you in a second. Just look it up in Google. Punch it up in GPT. Punch it up in Grok. Punch it up anywhere. They are absolutely cops. Stop it. This drives me nuts that these lies persist. You know how many times I've heard that stupid lie that they aren't cops in the last like 3 weeks since Renee Good? Like 2,000 times. It's unbelievable that people are that. How do you not take the time to look this up? How do you not
the
do
narratives, right? The narratives are this is why we have Common Mansplaining. This is why we created it, is because the narratives are there to lead you to deceive you, and we want to help you cut through those narratives. You're being spun. People are trying to say that these people don't have authority. They're federal agents, they're police officers, they're trained, and they're allowed to conduct this. Now, their purview is, yes, border infringement. But it's sort of like if you're on a task force for vice or homicide, right, in a police department, right? You see another thing, you can overlook it if you want, but you can also arrest them if they want. You have a badge, and you're there to create law and order. Now,
100%.
So I think the organization of this, right, the training, the cooperation, we've had a lot of videos. I've sent some of you, people are leaking these videos of training people. They're going to classes and how to resist arrest and be really, they practice how to be really dramatic for the videos and to scream, things like this. And they're using Signal now. Now, this is the type of thing when you have random crime and then you have organized crime.
Yes.
When you have random violent protests and you have organized violent protests. Now, organized peaceful protests are very different. Organized violent, agitating, confrontational, threatening protests. And this is the thing, maybe we can talk about it now or later, but people involved with this on the left have invoked Martin Luther King and the civil rights protests to righteously cloak their efforts. This is
let's set that out for a second.
Martin Luther King would have condemned the actions of this man. Bringing a gun to any type of his protest, he would have said no. That puts shame on the whole movement. The only way we're going to be successful is if we're 100% peaceful, right? People know, people have to be out there, but the minute that we bring weapons, that we are aggressive, we are threatening on people personally, then our movement loses all its credibility.
Absolutely.
Right? We become an insurgency and not righteous people in hoping to lawfully change things. Now, that's also the thing too, that people calling this a tyranny when this is what people voted for. Donald Trump. Well, all right. I want you to respond to the Martin Luther King thing before.
I mean, it's absolutely right. It's absurd, right? Everybody, this is a game, right? And it's the same game, actually, believe it or not. It's the same game that they played with this whole like Nazi analogy, right? There's a difference between technical analogies and meeting like the technical like event by event situation or the moral analogy, right? Like this is completely different morally, right? And so this is what drives me nuts is like, Martin Luther King would absolutely be against what's going on right now. It's different to just organize and protest peacefully, right? And Martin Luther King was a peaceful dude. Malcolm X would probably be in favor of this, right? But not Martin Luther King, right? So these are completely different styles. Now, Everybody's going, everybody's going nuts over here in the chat, which is great, guys. If you guys want us to address something you're saying real quick, just make sure that you super chat it because I can't even follow this many chats, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm glad you
Yeah,
guys
you
are all
send
here.
us a super chat and we will discuss it. But yeah, so part of the thing is, right, a tyranny would be if they had an election and nobody followed. There were, no power never changed. Right?
Or if the laws that they were enforcing were inherently unrighteous, right? Like, for example, if this was Nazi Germany and we were just hunting Jews, that's an unrighteous law. That's a sinful law. It would be okay to organize against that. But this is immigration law. Everybody in the world has immigration law, and many of them have much stricter immigration laws than we do.
Yeah.
We're actually one of the most progressive.
Yeah. Especially when ICE is there, really, right, to get the criminals, those who are convicted of crimes, and they're trying. They would like to peacefully pick them up at jails where it's all secure, no problem. But the local politicians there made the very dangerous choice to release these people, convicted violent criminals, back into the community rather than risk that, and which forces ICE to go into the community to get them.
Right.
And this is right because Donald Trump, right, who was campaigning on this, made this an issue. We're not going to allow people who commit crimes and who are not citizens of this country to remain here, right? And that is a baseline. Everybody else we can have a conversation about. We don't like that you came here illegally, but if you came here illegally and are a criminal, especially repeat criminal or violent criminal, no, you got to go.
And it's a double whammy in Minnesota because not only are they letting them go, they don't even prosecute them at the same rate, and they don't prosecute them for as long, right? So like their sentences are commuted. Everything is like it's like these guys like they get terrible, and then they're out in like a year and a half, and then they do the same thing again, and it's like the third time, and they still won't turn them over to ICE, and I'm like, what is going on? And I mean that's not to say that everybody that's an immigrant is like that. It's a rare part of the populace that's that violent, but those are the people that ICE is looking for. And yes, they'll scoop up some non-criminals other than their immigration violation as part of their duties because, if you go into an apartment and there's 4 people there and only 2 of them are criminals, but they're all illegal immigrants, they're going to scoop them all, right? That's just how it goes. But like the numbers show that the percentage of people that they're arresting that have violent crimes in addition to immigration violation is a very large percentage. Like DHS claims it's 75% or something ridiculous. I think it's probably closer to 50 or 60%, but even 50 or 60% is way more than the random, like the average amount of people who are committing these crimes. So if it's that large of if it's anything more than 2 or 3%, you know that they are targeting the criminals. They're not targeting the non-criminals. They might be scooping them up, but they're not targeting.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, if they can pick them up in jails, then they wouldn't do this. But now it's like, well, we've got to go to Home Depot parking lots or places where these people have been seen. And now all of a sudden you're going to get associates and things like that. You've got to do hard community enforcement. When if Minnesota was responsible, if their leaders were responsible, right, and did their job, they would hand these people over.
Right.
Now, I mean, the other thing, I think there was a picture I saw of Tim Walz at the governor's mansion behind the gates, encouraging everybody to go do this while safely behind his gates where he has armed security. He's not faced with the consequences of this, right? He doesn't have to live with criminals in this community. He doesn't have to risk anything, right? He can say this, and this is when people feel invincible. They just do the stupidest, most leftist stuff, right? Because it's not going to impact them.
Of course.
And this is the narrative. I think that right, the out of touch leadership, organizing and agitating their people to greater heights because they're not out there, right? Martin Luther King at least walked at the front of his marches. Tim Walz isn't right at the front of any of this stuff. And they're on Signal. They're chatting while they're in their nice, warm, safe, guard-gated mansions. Now, I don't, right? For me, I would not take leadership like that.
Yeah, right.
But for some reason, people have it in their mind, and it's an emotional thing, and the left has waged emotions, and and tried to get people to disregard logic about how criminals, there are consequences to committing crimes, legal consequences to committing crimes. Erase that and paint this as an immoral act. Well, it's an enforcement of the law, something we knew was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Trump campaigned on it, people voted for it. This is a lawful consequence of an election, and if these laws weren't enforced, that would be tyranny. If the will
So
of democracy, right, of the majority was not, if that policy wasn't going forward,
right.
that would be the greater injustice. You might not
Yeah.
like it, but you have an election to change things if you wish.
Right.
And
And we
and
already
that's
had.
why I think the visuals are really about trying to sow discord for future elections and make people lead to those consequences. Okay,
So I
now I'm
want to
done. What
correct
do you
something
want to say?
Spartacus said. Spartacus said in Minnesota they have like a time period where ICE can come pick up people from after they've served their sentence. It's not true in Minneapolis. Minneapolis
The sanctuary.
is a sanctuary city. In most of Minnesota, you might be right. I don't know
Yeah,
about the rest of
yeah.
Minnesota. You say you live there, you might be right. I'll take your word for it. But in Minneapolis, it's a sanctuary city. They do not turn them over to ICE up. I'm sorry. You're absolutely wrong. But and again, you can Google that in seconds. I just
Yep,
did it to
absolutely.
make sure. So they don't, unfortunately. Now they'll hand them over maybe if ICE catches them right as they're released and if they want to. And that's it. That's it. It's not like they'll hold them and wait, right? Like they should. But anyway, so
So
before we
states,
I do
somebody
want
asked,
to
what about states' rights? Right?
yeah.
Everybody's got the
What
10th
about states'
Amendment.
rights?
Everybody's 10th Amendment. Yeah. This is like, so it's like the Confederacy saying it was states' rights, right? That they don't want their slave labor taken away from them.
Right.
This is why the Democrats are fighting to keep their slave labor. What about states' rights?
What's states'
So
rights?
immigration, border enforcement is constitutionally a law, a responsibility of the federal government.
Thanks.
States do not enforce it. This is why they don't have to bust people if they're illegal immigrants, if they don't want to, right?
Right.
So we don't require that as the federal government. But if the federal government decides they want to enforce that law, that then states don't have the right to stop it.
You
That
know
is
what's funny
definitely
too? It's funny that the left is screaming states' rights now, which is it's so rich
oh
because
man.
while we have a constitution that expressly delegates the border enforcement to the federal government, ironically, we have a constitution that expressly does not delegate things like Social Security or education or welfare or on and on and on and on. And you guys
Housing,
want all that stuff to be run at the
healthcare.
healthcare, right? You guys want all that stuff to be run at the federal level, but then now, and I'm screaming states' rights, states' rights. But now all of a sudden, when we are doing something that the federal government is actually supposed to do, it's like if the government starts raising an army and you're like, but what about states' rights? I'm like, this is the one thing the federal government's supposed to do. It drives me. All right. So anyway, but that was Rich. Thank you for that, Tin Man. Whoever said that was great. But so I want to get to the stuff that Christian's talking about. But before we do, I just want to finish up on the actual event. I want to make sure that we have a good understanding of the actual event. Lastly, right. So after he interjects himself and gets involved directly in the police citizen contact, blocks the officer from getting to the person he was going to detain, and literally puts his hands on him. Obviously, the officer does the next wrong thing, which is start spraying him with a chemical irritant, right? Which is going to they say that's a de-escalating maneuver. That is not. That's absolutely, I don't know why DHS says that. I mean, it may even say that in the handbook, but it's not. It's definitely going to just raise the temperature on everything. Because if you get sprayed with pepper spray, you're gonna put your hand, you're gonna fight. That's just a reaction. You can't help it, right? And so, but this guy's gotten in the way of an officer. That's a felony. To block an officer from a detention is a felony, right? Just be clear about that. Now, he gets in this struggle and he starts fighting. That's another felony, right? Now, the actual moment of the death, which is again a horrible tragedy. The guy pulls a gun out of his back holster.
Well, first off, he's surrounded by at least 4 officers.
Yeah, at least 4. And one guy, by the way, just a quick aside, one guy's like beating him in the head with a can or something. That dude belongs in jail for the rest of his life. I don't know who that was, but that guy needs to be in jail for the rest of his life. That's insane. That's like schoolyard brawl nonsense. I don't know what that was. But and then some of the other guys were probably doing some it's hard to see everything. But then so then the guy pulls the thing out of his back and somebody screams gun.
Pulls the holster.
Is terrible because, of course.
Well, he takes it out, but then he takes it front into the street with it open. And so this is the thing. You can see it on the video. You can see the gun, and it matches what you can see in the blurry photo matches what they've released as the weapon they took off him.
Right.
And somebody, this is what I want to show, yells, gun, 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 gun. Right. Now, this could be a bystander who sees somebody with a gun out there, warning people that a gun is now open to anything. It could have been one of the officers. We don't know that. We need further investigation. This is going to be the next thing. They're going to blame, both sides are going to blame the other side for yelling gun. Somebody yelled gun. We don't know who. The officer who was then in front of him heard that, pulled out his gun, and immediately started shooting at point blank range. And not just one shot, but I think we're 7, 8. We've had reports count as high as 10 shots at point blank, and obviously Mr. Preddy was DOA.
Fatally injured. Yeah. Now I don't know. I don't even know how to address like the number of shots fired. Right, like obviously when you're in a situation. One thing that I want to just quickly touch on. People say, well, he had already lost the gun, right? Well, there's 2 things to note about that. Number one, not all the police officers can see that he was disarmed. And especially when you scream gun, they're not thinking, oh, he didn't say, I've disarmed him, right? He said gun. Whoever said it said gun. They're thinking, oh, crap, he's got a weapon, right? Plus, by the way, even if he didn't have a weapon at all, and this is something that people forget about, he has access to all the officers' weapons. That's part of the risk of getting into a struggle with a police officer who is trying to arrest you. You are always a lethal attacker, even if you don't mean to be, because you have access to the cop's lethal weapon. Now, that doesn't mean that he deserved to die, because he definitely didn't. We're not saying that. We're just saying that it's understandable how this horrible tragedy came to be, because it was like this series of ridiculous, unfortunate events, some of which are out of the officer's control, some of which are not. Some of which, like some of the officers, like literally, that guy that was hitting him with a can needs to go away. And the guy that shot him like 5 times after he was on the ground collapsed, he probably was at least needs to go away too. Like I mean, obviously, they're going to do an investigation, and each, as a cop, you have to justify each shot fired, right? So
now listen, for those of you who have watched our channel for a long time, we philosophically, the power that we have granted to the government and they have delegated to law enforcement is the use of violence. We've delegated that state violence, and we've delegated. They're the ones to use that, right? And they need to be. That's a power that the people have granted them, and they need to be unbelievably careful and judicious in using that, and not cavalier. And even under testing times, I mean, the ability to keep your head and stay cool under pressure has got to be something, because you represent the Constitution, you represent the people, you take these vows, and the trust and the power to commit, to detain, to arrest people, and to ultimately commit violence is something that is very sacred, and to be wielded irresponsibly, right, is something that citizens on both sides should bipartisan not stand for.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
Ultimately, though, I think the legal precedents on this going up to the Supreme Court are going to make it, because of all of the things, enough where I don't think he'll suffer criminal convictions.
There you
I
go.
believe that's his career, and otherwise, maybe detained for a while, should be over.
I
But
think that dude that hit him with a can needs to go to jail.
well, we'll see. Yeah.
That's
So that
insane.
the other hits, but the person who fired the gun after hearing the word gun, gun, gun in a fraud situation
Yeah.
like that, um, I don't think
Yeah, he
maybe
might.
he'll go to trial, but I don't think
Yeah,
it'll be satisfying for people. He'll have consequences, and he'll have blood on his hands for his whole life.
yeah,
I don't think that there will be they'll be able to convict him.
maybe
Just
not. Yeah, it'll be tough. It will be tough.
based on precedents that I would say, and that's the thing that we have to be like the Rodney King, like they're found innocent, we're going to riot again. The officer who shot this guy will be found innocent or will not be charged or things like that. And people are going to want to get upset. We understand that, but this was a horrible tragedy. Um, but the law has in these chaotic, when you get chaos, the chaos is going to excuse a lot of bad decisions,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing that Matthew mentioned that I want to just pay homage to again is that the fact that everybody came out and started calling him a terrorist immediately, without
Yeah.
knowing the facts, without
Yeah.
having any of the
He was
we
not.
had like one
He
video.
was not.
The first video came out and they were saying that already, and the first video I saw was like you could not see anything. The only thing you saw was a guy struggling with officers, right? So like. I mean, yeah, but then by the same token, I have to say I'm actually proud of Trump for waiting until the facts came out for once, right? Like Trump is usually the guy that says the crazy stuff right away. But anyway, so yeah, now I want to get to this because the reason this keeps happening, in Minnesota is specifically is like it doesn't happen in Texas. And by the way, there are far more deportations going on in Texas, far more illegal immigration in Texas.
And
And there's
Florida.
far more
And
ICE activity in Texas. The reason that it's happening in Minnesota over and over again is because people like Tim Walz keep calling ICE Gestapo. People like Frey keep on saying that they're basically telling you that this is supposed to be something that you resist, that they don't have authority. They keep on telling you lies like they're not cops, unbelievable untruths, and then they tell you that you should resist them because what else do you do to Gestapo? Of course you resist them.
they want
And
the
once again,
citizens to rise up. They're not calling on their police or their National Guard to start shooting or attacking. They want citizens to put their lives at
right,
risk.
right. They want
So
citizens to be in this
irresponsible.
situation. Honestly, because I hate to say it, but like you take a step back from this and acknowledging that it's the tragedy that is, who does it benefit more, the right or left? The left won huge on this event because they get to say, look, ICE just killed another person. We're the victims. Wah, wah, wah. ICE is the mean, big old bad oppressors. Regardless of the events, it has nothing to do with that. That's going to be the narrative regardless. They won huge on this event. That's what Tim Walz wants. He wants as much violent interaction as possible so that he can say Trump was wrong. That's all this is about. And if you guys don't see past that, if you don't see to this point, please just take a moment to understand what one thing that we do here on Common Mansplaining is you ask yourself the question, why do the elites, what do they want and why do they want it, right? And this is what the elites want right now. They want a lot of interfaces between ICE that cause them to make bad decisions because eventually they'll make one. Right? No matter how perfect their record is, no matter how flawless they are, no matter how well trained they are. And by the way, these guys are having thousands of interactions and they make one mistake, and that mistake is huge. And I'm not trying to say that mistake is not a big deal. It's huge. That's a big error. And we are not carrying water for this mistake. But they make this one mistake, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, and it's like, then we're like, we're stuck with these propaganda lines, these narrative lines that
Trying
ICE
to
is the oppressor.
delegitimize all ICE activities, and
Right.
it doesn't rise to that. It does not rise to that level.
It doesn't, right? Absolutely, and that's a great point. One thing I want to say is, guys, if the thing we voted for was to make sure that we don't have illegal immigrants here, right? If the thing we voted for was to make sure that we take illegal immigrant criminals off the street, then that was still the right thing to do. An error in execution doesn't change it. Now, if they had if Trump had given the order to implement falsely or fail, to have a failed implementation, then it's mission level, right? Then it's Trump's mission is failing. But he's not doing that. He's saying arrest the criminals, and that's what they are doing. And then they make an error, or one or two guys go on a power trip, and they need to serve the consequences for it. But that power trip has nothing to do with the mission level, right? That has nothing to do with what we've already set out to do. We still need to make sure that people follow the law. And that's it. And oh, by the way, let me just kill another left lie real quick. This one that drives me nuts. ICE is against brown people. They're just trying to get brown people. They're afraid of brown people. They want to get rid of brown people. Nobody gives a crap about the race. I love immigrants. I want as many immigrants here as we can get legally. That's all I'm going to say on that. All right.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, right, when you release a criminal who's an illegal alien out there, right, he's been convicted of crimes. They've got pictures of him. They've got descriptions of them. And if his description happens to be of a certain ethnicity, that's not racist or profiling. That's just facts.
That's
so they've got to look. They've got to detain people that look like him. If you don't want them detaining people based on looking like, bringing people into a lineup based on looking like somebody like, then hand them over at the jail. Right. These are all avoidable. This is the thing. These are all avoidable confrontations. 100%. And other states are doing it. And what we see is Minnesota has a level of political corruption, and they've been using illegal immigrants and immigrants in jail to wield political and enhance their political power.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's the political power option that's being called out, especially as it comes to fundraising, things like this that are being threatened. And so there are a lot of death throes when you come at people's political power. They're going to fight like, honey badgers to retain it. And but citizens need to be calm. Come down here, calm down. Don't get taken in by their emotional rhetoric to rile you up and send you out there while they stay behind in their gates, right? Why would they be? They're encouraging you to break the law, to do illegal things, and then hopefully their people can cover for you. Their DAs, their attorneys can dismiss their charges. That's the sort of climate that you'll get busted, but we just won't charge you. Well, if you're on the left, right? This is the type of insurgency that will only lead. And here's the issue that you're talking about. Trump has asked to talk to Tim Walz so they can de-escalate this, because Trump does have several options to escalate this, like he did in other places. He can bring in the National Guard. Right?
Is that what you guys want, by the way?
Yeah.
Like, is that what you guys want? The question I posed to the left is, like, is that what you guys want? Because if you continue to press ICE officers like this, that's the foregone conclusion, right? Like, if you guys don't like Trump's heavy-handedness, if you don't like him, like, throwing his power in your face and bringing National Guard in and making it a police state, then stop fighting them. It's okay to protest. Protest is your constitutional right. Fighting ICE is not. Resisting ICE is not. Impeding justice is not. That is not your right. So, if you guys don't want Trump to do that. So, anyway, Trump could escalate. And, honestly, it might be the right plan. I don't think capitulation is the right thing to do here, right? Like, when you're challenged at this level, especially because the federal government does have both the moral and legal duty to complete this mission, I don't think you can back down. Now, maybe you can. Maybe there's a way to gracefully extricate yourself if everyone cooperates. Like if Walz says, yes, we'll start turning people over, every single one, yes, we'll start cooperating. Yes, we'll let local PD manage the riots, because holy cow, these guys are seizing churches and hotels, like running into police officers' cars and stealing, guns and stuff from them and documents. Like, don't kid yourself. This whole, like, mostly peaceful nonsense is a fantasy. right? That's just, it's, to be fair, it's a fantasy on every side, right? I've never seen a riot where they're just filled with mostly peace. Sure, they might, like, by the numbers be, if you've got a riot with 1,000 people and only 100 of them are like killing, local store clerks, sure, it's mostly pretty peaceful. It's 90% peaceful, but it's still horrible, right? Like, that's still a riot. It's still people vandalizing. It's still, don't do that nonsense. That is not your constitutional right. Like, and if you don't want Trump to come in here with a sledgehammer, don't do that. I'm just saying.
What Trump could do is pull for a cooling off period and say we'll be back in April when the weather is a little bit warmer or something, and we'll give you a cooling off period to let people kind of
It is cold.
re-rationalize and say, but anybody that has been convicted of serious crimes who is not in the country, who's not a U.S. citizen,
Right.
deserves our scrutiny. We're going to scrutinize them very, very closely, especially if they're like asylum requests or anything like that, and they've committed serious crimes. Why are you protecting them? If
Yeah.
it's just for your political power, sorry, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right, absolutely. Oh, so and I want to talk about this too. So the Antifa in the area has established it's called the MAZ, the Minneapolis Autonomous Zone. This is dangerous, guys.
Oh yeah,
Please
yeah.
don't let Antifa run the show. Please do not let Antifa run
Like
the show.
they had that in Portland, right, for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like, when you get to the
Jazz.
point where you are declaring, like, where you're declaring you're succeeding from the union, like, that's dangerous. Like, guys, I mean, we want to walk this away from civil war at all costs. Like, I don't think people realize how dangerous the civil war is, because Minnesota won't be alone, especially if it comes out that, like, this kind of resistance is a way to get Trump to capitulate. I think that will be terrible for the nation, because then places like Portland will do it. Places like DC will try to do it. Places that we've even already cleaned up might try to regress. I don't think that that's what we want at all. And if we end up in a civil war, you're talking millions dead. You're talking millions dead. Please walk us back from the edge of the cliff. And Trump can't do it because he has to continue enforcing the law. The ultimatum can never be, oh, bow to our wishes and don't enforce the law, or we'll be mean. That can't be the ultimatum, because then you could do that for any crime. Oh, if you don't let us steal stuff, then we'll be mean. If you don't let us kill people, we'll be mean. If you don't let us, go around, kidnapping, we'll be mean. You can't do that. You can't bargain with ultimatums like that against the federal government when they are righteously enforcing the law. I'm sorry. So this autonomous zone is insane. Like, the fact that they raided that hotel, and, like, that dude threw this brick at it wasn't even an ICE officer. It was just like the Federal Bureau of Prisons guy that was just a local loan to help out because they were terrorizing this hotel. And he, like, hits him with a brick just because he kind of looked like, I mean, they kind of wear the similar equipment. I don't know. Why would you attack and he didn't even get caught yet, as far as I know. The guy that assaults.
So I have a spicy take, a little bit of
Yeah,
spicy,
come on with
but
it.
that's okay. About Minnesota. So Tim Walz has famously said that he has very close ties with China, that he went there a long time ago, went to Tiananmen Square and all this kind of stuff.
Not during Tiananmen Square, though.
This feels like a Chinese op to try to just weaken and distract the United States, right? That they would work on him to just, the foreign countries they know that the United States is so strong, the only thing that can weaken us is divisions within. And their type of thing, they'd be on joining these signal groups and trying to rile people up. They'll be putting out blue sky TikToks, things like this that will be very inflammatory. Please, this is called mansplaining. Please be careful, right? You might just be a tool of China to try to distract the U.S. so that they can enact their hegemony in the Pacific.
It could be. It could. I mean, it's something I hadn't considered. But yeah, I guess Tim Walz could be an op for China. That'd be funny. I don't think so, but it's possible, right? Now, yeah, nobody here is drunk. Just so you guys know. I don't know if you guys realize this, but Christian
Just
is
how to
actually
talk.
Mormon. He's a Mormon, so he actually can't drink. He doesn't.
I've
He never
never
drinks.
had a recreational drink in my life.
He actually can't. He doesn't even drink coffee. Like, I mean, he's
Nope.
that kind of thing. But anyway, but yeah, like if you guys have I see some people complaining about the channel. There's no propaganda here. Like we're just telling you, we're spitting like it is. Now, if you have a complaint, voice your complaint clearly and independently. Now, Jax, this is another thing that I see from the left all the time. I want to just briefly address it. Jax is like, release the Epstein files, right? It's like This is an anthem that's very, very played out and old. Now, I'll say for the record that I'm with you. I think they are dragging their feet, and they're probably dragging their feet on purpose, right, with their redactions. I don't know for sure that that's the case. I honestly don't know how long redactions take. So I don't know how long it would normally take. These are millions of files. So, but anyway, but I do
We're
think it's
common
funny.
men. We're not elites. Now, I'll say we are not tied in. I've not joined these signal chats.
Right.
Right. but we have discernment enough to see spin and to see manipulation. And that's what this is.
Yes. And I'll tell you what. So yeah, these signal chats. You guys, the fact that there are actual like state senators and city council members involved in this signal chat, the fact that there's like, who's the leader? Is this like Amanda Kohler or whatever, was a candidate for state senate and like ran Walz's campaign for him? Like these are like heavyweight politicians that are in this chat, in this resistance group. Now, I'm just telling you, it's another step towards oblivion because the danger of civil war is when two government factions are warring with each other. And the closer we get to like organized factions, the closer we get to a civil war situation. Please step away from the ledge. Please, please, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. And I mean,
and then I think the big key for if our leaders can look upon Martin Luther King and just reinforce peaceful protests. Protest fine. Your constitution allowed to protest. You can't barge into private property like churches, right? Who have a constitutional protection to worship and things like, oh, I'm constitutionally allowed to be here. Oh, I'm being arrested. What's going on?
What?
Right? Some common sense things, people. So the leaders in these signal chats could educate people on some common sense civics and encourage just peaceful, sing "We Shall Overcome," do something, but to violently agitate, make death threat, things like that, and try to hurt ICE enforcement agents is not the way to change things.
You know something I just thought about? I'm just going to throw this out there. After January 6th, right? When that riot was going on, another crazy riot, right? Another bunch of idiots who were doing something that they shouldn't, right? And Trump came out publicly and said, "Let's be peaceful. Please respect the officers." And everybody on the left chastised him for not doing it fast enough when it was like literally like an hour and a half later. Yeah. Within an hour and a half. And meanwhile, we've got Walz ramping people up to fight.
Months.
Like, yeah. What is going on? Where's the equality here? Where's the like egalitarianism? I thought the left was supposed to be empathetic and egalitarian. Why can't we get Walz to be held accountable for his voice and his actions? I don't understand that.
Well, he is suffering. He has withdrawn from his governor's race. He's not seeking re-election.
Thankfully.
So that's one consequence, and that was mostly related to the fraud. But now, since he's not seeking office, he's just like, well, I got nothing to worry about now. Let's burn it all down. Like it's really like,
man,
dark stuff. Really,
I feel now. I will say I worry that Trump has the bandwidth to manage this situation. I do. I hope he does. Right. I have faith that I even though I don't like Trump very much, I still have faith in in the office of the presidency, right? And I'd like to keep that faith as long as I can. I hope he does. I hope he can manage this. Now it's going to be a dangerous situation because he's on that fence, right? If he makes a misstep, he could also lead us towards civil war. Now, I hate to say it, it might not be a bad play for Trump to push that advantage. And that's why I don't want us to go there, because Trump could be sitting there thinking, well, if we force them to a civil strife circumstance now, it's a single state, we're already deployed, we would run over them. And I would hate for that to be a tactical, like, analysis that runs the show, right? I would hate for him to think, well, let's go ahead and ramp up pressure because we will win and we'll win quickly and deadly, right? Like, that's not what I want to see. So I want everybody to just take a step back from the ledge. And this really rests once again with the Democrat leaders in Minnesota. It really does. They're the ones who are responsible for keeping their people on a leash and keeping them peaceful and keeping them sane, and instead of like ICE officers around town to obstruct justice. I mean, that's insane. So yeah, it's funny how many times we get these comments like, "Are these guys stupid?" If you guys have a gripe, tell us what the gripe is. Don't lob bad hot ad hominem attacks, right? Just tell us what you think we're missing, because we basically covered the whole nine right here. Like, and again, I'll say it. This is a tragedy. This is a terrible, tragic situation. And there are both sides at fault, both sides to blame for this tragedy. Do I know if this will ultimately result in a murder charge? I don't know. I don't know. He has a legal defense. It's there. I mean, whether or not it could even be a false legal defense, but it will still work for him probably, because all he has to say is, I thought he had a gun. The guy said gun. I was afraid for my life. If you say the right things, you're pretty covered, especially as an officer, even if you don't mean it. So it's unfortunate that that's the case. But the truth is, we want that plausible deniability to be there, because one day you could be in a situation where you're accused of a crime and you want to be presumed innocent until guilty, right? Like, that's part of the bedrock of our country. That's Blackstone, right? So what other questions do you guys have for us? I mean, I think ultimately, if you're on the right and you can't admit the mistakes that the officers made, you need to check yourself. And if you're on the left and you can't admit the mistakes that Preddy made, you need to check yourself. You really need to look some of this stuff up. Anytime you hear these like slogans like ICE isn't real officers, dear heavens, please just look it up. Just look it up for yourself.
And don't dismiss us because of our identity. Yes, we are white, middle-aged men, right?
Yeah,
but
true.
We are not paid. We carry water for neither side. We're looking at as dispassionately and as rationally as we can, trying to see through the narratives, trying to sort through. Obviously, people want to warp this to their ends, to what benefits them politically or situationally. We're here to call that out. We don't live in Minnesota. We don't benefit from that, but we care about this country.
Amen.
Right? We care about the civics being well informed. We're true independent commentators, and are nobody's pawns.
Amen. Yeah, it's Comrade Jones. It's not 47 days. FLET is longer. But anyway, and by the way, ICE officers also get additional training after their FLET is over too. Besides this, they're actually like Cops Plus, even though I mean it's not much. Now, here's another one of my spicy takes, right? And I've said this many times though, but guys, everybody in police in law enforcement needs to learn jujitsu or sambo. They have to learn how to grapple. I'm not kidding. Like, this is just something that we need to start requiring in every police department across the United States, in every federal law enforcement training program. They have got to start learning jujitsu, because I'm gonna tell you something. Even if it was, most of these guys have 9 months of training in FLET or something like that. But even if it's just that, a 9-month jujitsu practitioner could take, like, we had, what is it, like 6 people were around Preddy? 6 burly guys to tackle this feminine, like 115, 20-pound dude. Like, I could have taken him down in seconds. And I don't have much jujitsu training. I do have wrestling background, but I don't have much jujitsu training. I only have a little bit, right? I could have taken him down in seconds and controlled him 100% to the point where even if he had a gun, he couldn't have reached it. Why can't the cops do that? They should be able to do that. So if they need to get additional training. If they don't have grappling training, they need jujitsu training. They need to be able to control the outcome of events. Plus, it gives them an additional non-lethal weapon in their arsenal, right? And they need more of those, right? Because obviously, the fact that they're jumping to these lethal, why don't they have taser guns? They should have just zapped him.
Yeah, grappling somebody in the street in Florida and on the frozen streets of Minnesota in January.
It's not fun.
Look, I hope that there are lessons learned by this, and
I
I
do.
hope that on both sides that we don't do this again. The life of American citizens is too precious to waste on this.
Amen.
Let us learn lessons and move forward. That's all I got for tonight, but appreciate everybody chiming in. I know this is a subject that people have a lot of strong opinions on, but really we need to try to just see it what it is and not try to carry water for each side. And I think that will lead us to the best understanding.
Amen. Hey, good luck with BYU tonight, guys. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you guys coming. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out our Patreon. I don't know if I'll try to post it again here, but I don't know if it's going to work. But check it out. Check out our Patreon. We're going to have a lot of exclusive content that we will be sharing. You'll be able to chat with us and stuff like that. We'll be able to do some other stuff. It's all coming. I'm working on the channel like crazy this year. So thank you so much for watching. Please tell all your friends about us, and then we will catch you next time on Common Mansplaining.
Keep it coming.
Keep it coming.